Hey guys, Mike here, and in this video I'm going to tell you 7 important reasons why you should consider upgrading to the Apple iPad Air if you already have an iPad 3 or even an older iPad. First of all, iPad Air has lost weight. It's thinner, shorter, narrower and lighter than the iPad 3, and in fact than any of the other 9.7-inch iPads launched before. Spec-wise, the screen on the Air is identical to the one on the 4 and on the 3, with an IPS panel and 2048 by 1536 pixel resolution. There are some differences in terms of colors, brightness and contrast, but not enough to justify the upgrade. Back to that body though, the iPad Air is about 180 grams lighter than the iPad 3, and you'll see that when holding it in hand. It's still not something you can easily grab with one hand and use with the other, but it is more comfortable to operate and hold for a longer period of time. The redesigned body has a positive impact on the overall experience as well, as the iPad Air borrowed the aesthetics from the iPad mini with rounded edges and a flat back. You might notice that due to the narrower side bezel, your fingers might rest on top of the display when grabbing the Air, but that should not concern you much, as the software is smart enough to detect your hand and ignore it. Okay, so while the design changes between the two generations are obvious, all the other aspects in this post are not as easy to spot at a quick glance. Let's start with the hardware. The iPad 3 is only 1.5 years old, but despite that, the iPad Air outperforms it in every way. In benchmarks, the Air is 2-3 times faster than its 2-generation-old relative, but the speed difference is visible in everyday use as well. The Air is snappier when launching apps, switching between applications, performing regular tasks, playing games and so on, well, at least as snappy as iOS 7 allows it to be, with its pesky animations and transitions. However, the iPad 3 does not lag that far behind, despite the occasional stuttering. Still, on the Air you do get the 64-bit processor and the M7 Motion coprocessor, and once apps start to make better use of this, the gap between these two tablets will get wider. Moving on, Apple decided to shrink the battery on the iPad Air in order to make the tablet slimmer and lighter. As a result, there's a 32 Wh battery on the Air as opposed to the 43 Wh one on the iPad 3. However, the new tablet is overall more efficient and actually provides longer runtimes in most situations, no matter if you're using it for casual stuff, running games or watching movies. Not to mention that if you do have an iPad 3, the battery inside it has already lost some of its capacity and no longer lasts as long as it did when new. Oh, and the Air will charge faster than the iPad 3 as well. Speaking of efficiency, the iPad 3 gets annoyingly hot while running games or having its screen brightness turned all the way up. The Air runs cooler. Its aluminum shell still gets somewhat warm, but it never gets uncomfortable to hold and use. All this aside, you should know that the Air offers a few other tweaks and improvements over the older iPads. For instance, you do get support for a vast array of 4G LTE networks with it, while the 3rd generation Apple slate is limited to 3G speeds in many countries and only supports a limited number of LTE frequencies. Besides that, you do get faster wireless on the iPad Air, which bundles MIMO antennas. However, there's no Wi-Fi AC support on this latest Apple tablet, which is disappointing. In terms of software and features, there's not a lot you'll get on the Air that's missing on the iPad 3. However, with the Air, Apple decided to bundle some free apps that you might find useful, like the entire iWork suite and iMovie, useful for editing documents and clips. All this together are worth around $30 if you were to buy them from the store. Last but not least, you should know that there's a much improved front-facing camera on the iPad Air, plus a set of dual microphones. So if you're using the tablet for FaceTime, Skype or Hangout calls, you'll really appreciate this aspect. All in all, there are quite a few reasons to upgrade from the iPad 3 to the iPad Air. The new tablet is smaller, lighter, faster and runs cooler and longer on a charge. On top of that, you do get some other minor improvements. If you have the older original iPad or the iPad 2, add the Retina display or the 4G support to the list. However, if you have the iPad 4, the Air might not necessarily offer enough to justify an upgrade, but more about that in a future clip. For now, it's time to end this video. Let me know what do you think about the iPad Air and whether you're considering it a worthy upgrade or not. And as always, if you like this clip, hit that thumbs up button and subscribe for my next updates. Thanks for watching and I'll see you soon.